Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our fourth morning meeting. We're thrilled to have everybody. Today's format is going to be a little bit different. I'm just going to run through a couple slides. If anybody was on our webinar yesterday about our roadshow report and public policy agenda unveil, it's a little bit of similar content from when we talked about ways to engage. I'm just going to go a little bit slower through that since we had so much content yesterday. And my colleague Sarah Loken's going to do an action alert in real time with everyone. So the slides will be minimal, and we're hoping that it can be an interactive session. And if we have time at the end, if folks do have question about our new public policy agenda that was released yesterday with the roadshow report, we're happy to chat about that too. So we'll pop that in the chat. But we'll just start with a conversation around some of the engagement opportunities that we're really excited to work on with y'all coming in through the budget cycle. So we're going to talk about four things. The first is going to be testimony at the State House. The second will actually, we're on the morning meeting, but we'll just do a reminder of why we do this. And we'll talk a little bit about our Advocacy Day in March, and then finally finish with that action alert interactive session. So it's just the Groundwork team. Please feel free to pop questions in the chat. Sarah, thanks for putting the policy roadmap driving change report in the chat. That has our public policy agenda embedded within it. So we'll go ahead and kick things off. Just a reminder about what we're doing here at the morning meeting. We've had a few different speakers so far: Department of Children and Youth, Ohio Association of Food Banks, and Danielle Ewan, who gave us a great federal kind of pre-election perspective. Next week, we're going to have Liz Powell give us a post-election analysis. She's got great insights from DC as a federal lobbyist, but she also has an Ohio office as well. So she'll have, she might have a teammate join her who works more closely on Cap Square all the time. Brittany, what is the plan on approaching the Ohio General Assembly? And curious about the approach, since that's part of the budgeting process. Yes, we're going to talk about that this morning. Great question. And that is the heart of our work. That's our prime audience. No matter what we do, we're always driving toward that legislative audience and the governor's team as well. So thanks for asking that. And we'll touch on that a little bit. We are going to use this platform as an opportunity to engage with those folks. So we're working right now on hopefully confirming a legislator during our lame duck session, which is happening, just started this week and will go through the end of the year. And we'll probably have a few legislators in the spring as well from both parties. We're really hoping to try to get some of the new leaders from the finance committees in each chamber to come and chat at some of our morning meetings. Those committees will not be announced until January. We're waiting to see who shapes up to be the next speaker. And a lot of that will have kind of a domino effect on who is in those positions. But just a pitch too, if there are things that you would really like to hear about during these weekly sessions, please feel free to email me anytime. I'll throw my email in the chat. I think everybody probably gets inundated from me, but just so that it's handy, we are always open to ideas and want to make sure that we're providing content that's useful for everybody. We also do our best to make sure these always end by 10, so they're a nice quick hit. And one of the things that we will cover during these weekly meetings is opportunities to testify. So to your question, Brittany, this is a great opportunity for us to engage with the legislature coming into the budget cycle. We actually testified this week on the child care cred legislation, which is similar in a lot of ways to this tri-share model that folks have heard about in Michigan and Indiana and Kentucky, where the state, an employer, and a family share the cost burden of childcare in order to mitigate things for the family. So we testified proponent testimony on that legislation yesterday. Troy Hunter on our team, our Senior Director of Policy, testified in the Senate Workforce and Education Committee chaired by Jerry Serino. The budget testimony will really kick off in February. They will start, so the governor's version of the budget will come out February 3rd. The House will have bill language that has his version of the budget in it that they will modify and have a House version of. In the House will be the first opportunity for folks to testify. So they will have the Legislative Service Commission, which is the legislature's nonpartisan research branch that does all of the bill drafting, testify. They'll have the Office of Budget and Management testify about state fiscal projections. And then they'll go through all the state agencies. That'll be who's up first in February once the committees start meeting for budget. In the House, Then they'll move to state organizations, state like nonprofit and advocacy organizations, and public testimony. So our team will share updates on that during the weekly meetings throughout. We'll put alerts in our newsletters. We will reach out if you're on one of our advisory councils. We'll reach out and definitely let you know about when there are opportunities for public testimony. There's always a form that you have to fill out. If you're not able to come in person to Columbus, you can often submit written testimony as well. And just a quick note that they have hundreds of folks come through with public testimony in each chamber, both House and Senate. So they often limit the time, and sometimes you'll have to be ready to just speak for 2 minutes. And that can be a tricky thing to accomplish. So really making sure your message is super clear. Our team has done lots of testimony opportunities over the years, and we're happy to help with formatting, making sure that it meets the formal process of starting with the chair, coaching. If anybody's doing this for their first time and they want to talk through what that looks like, we're happy to chat with you. From the House, the bill will move obviously to the Senate. April through May, maybe a little bit into June. The Senate really hopes that it won't go into June too much because they want to have ample time for conference committee, which is when we've got the governor's office, House, and Senate leaders all meeting together to look at the governor's version, the House version, and the Senate version of the budget bill, and choosing which components they want to include for the final version of the bill that will go to the governor's desk by June 30th, constitutionally required. I'll let in a couple more folks from the waiting room. Another quick note is that sometimes you will get questions after testimony, and it's not a bad thing if you don't have the answer in the moment. If a legislator is asking you for something, maybe impact numbers, number of kids served, anything you don't have the answer for off the top of your head, it's always great to have a reason to follow up. You can follow up through the chair's office, and then the chair's staff will share your answer with the entire committee. Some of us have been staffers before, and you get these alerts regularly through the committee chair out to the membership. So that's not uncommon by any means, and it's not frowned upon by any means. So don't be shy about not knowing the answer. Thank you so much for these questions in the chat. Something outlined about approaching Speaker Stevens. Feel free to email me offline with that, and we can talk a little bit more. It kind of depends on exactly what you want to talk about and which of his team members you're talking to, whether it's a constituent district specific issue or his caucus staff. I will note that there is an anticipated vote among the House Republican caucus November 20th as to who their next speaker will be. So as early as next week, it might not be Speaker Stevens that's in that seat. So just be super aware of that. Timeline is kind of fluid at the moment.
Hey, Brittany.
Yeah.
It's Lynn-Ann. Other Brittany in the chat, her questions were making me think of something, which is a link I'm putting in the chat to Groundwork's 2023 policy progress report, which was really a summary of all of our budget activity. And I think it'll give you a good hint into all the types of activities you can expect from us. But it made me think of, we did about 100 plus legislative meetings. There's 99 representatives and 33 senators. We did not meet with every single member during the budget period. So in terms of strategy, Brittany leads this work with our external and internal lobbying team. So some of us on staff are registered lobbyists. And then we also work with experts that have unique relationships with members who are important in the General Assembly and in the governor's administration. And we work with them to determine who's the most important to meet with. And a lot of those answers will come next year when we have official answers on who's leading finance committees, who's in leadership, because certainly Speaker Stevens is really important now and through the end of the year. That may be less of a priority next year, depending upon how the leadership team shakes up. But of course, you and your community, regardless, should always focus on your delegation. And then where you have delegates that are also part of things like the Finance Committee or on the leadership teams, both either on the minority or majority side, those are other key opportunities for you to focus priority on them among the handful of folks that may be leading or representing you in your own community. But take a look at some of that activity to see what to expect from us, but it gives you a flavor of how our legislative legislative strategy was operationalized in terms of activities coming from us.
Thank you, Lynanne. And I just built off that with a reminder. I think a lot of folks on this call probably already know who their state reps and senators are, but because so many are changing, especially in the House in January, you can plug in your address and zip code at ohiolegislature.gov and confirm who your representative and senator are, and it'll take you straight to their contact info, and you can set up meetings and all that fun stuff. And in that vein, we will have our Advocacy Day. We announced the save the date yesterday. It will be March 12th, 2025. And I just wanted to pause and reflect and share that we will have a training in advance of this day. We'll have a virtual training. Our team will be all hands on deck to answer questions and get into all the nitty-gritty details about that day, what the schedule looks like, what you should pack, what you should wear, resources that we'll have to help you during your meetings. We'll have our obviously tons of printouts related to our public policy agenda, and our team is putting together fact sheets that speak more specifically and in more depth on each of the various components of that agenda. And we will have a really robust schedule that kicks off with a speaker to sort of get everybody in the right headspace to do this really important work. And then we divvy up the day between House and Senate and do our best to get everybody exactly where they need to be. So I'm really excited to see lots of folks in March. I'll pause in case anyone has questions about testimony and Advocacy Day before I turn things over to Sarah to talk more about action alerts. All right. And if you think of more, we can popcorn in. So no worries. Sarah, I'll go ahead and invite you to chat a little bit more about action alerts and help walk us through one.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, everyone. We want to spend a few minutes talking about action alerts because this is a tool that we use to activate you at the exact right moment when it's an opportune time to engage with legislators. So this is a handful of reasons why we do this and why it's so powerful. So we want to empower your voices for change. Action alerts are a way that we keep you updated on key policy decisions that are happening to make sure that you can amplify your voice at the right time. We want to ensure that policymakers hear real life perspectives, and you are the ones who can do that. We want to advance equity through collective action. We know that policy change is a long process, but when we act collectively, it accelerates that process. So we use action alerts to mobilize our audience and demonstrate to policymakers that there is broad and passionate support for addressing inequities that affect children. We want to show lawmakers that early childhood is a priority. So by sending messages to legislators, you help underscore that these are pressing priorities for Ohioans. This also helps create accountability and transparency by holding lawmakers accountable. When you do an action alert, it enables you to directly communicate your expectations to your legislators and encourage them to align their actions with the needs of their constituents. And finally, strengthening community involvement in policy decisions. Action alerts help do this because you're busy. You're super busy people, but this is a quick way that you can stay involved on the issues that you care about. We're trying to get you timely information and very specifically suggested actions that you can take. And this builds a bridge between constituents and lawmakers, helping ensure that community voices are part of shaping policy decisions. So I'm going to show you just how easy this is if you've never done one before. What happens is that you will get an email from us, and somewhere in the title of that email, it will say action alert, and it will explain what's going on and how you can help by contacting policymakers in your district. This is one that we activated in September about protecting and prioritizing childcare and spending bills. So if you got this email from us, you would just click on Take Action Now, and it would take you to this landing page that basically just recaps what was already in the email, and then you would scroll down until you see a form. Next slide. So on this form, it's asking for your name, your address, your email, and your phone number, and that's it. And after you fill this out once, next time that information will be populated for you automatically. So what happens next is this platform is about to send a message to policymakers for you. Now, this is an automated system, so we've already given you a subject line. We've already given you a message that's been written for you. Right now, though, you have a chance to personalize this. You can personalize the subject line. You can personalize the message. You can talk about your professional experience and some of the real life scenarios that you see in your work. You could choose to cite your experience and perspective as a parent who has children in this phase of life, or you can just leave it as is and hit next. And that's how easy it is. Like, you're done. Because once you hit next, your message has automatically been sent to policymakers in your district based on the address that you entered. So I want to take just a moment and have us all do this together. Brittany, if I can share my screen.
You have the power, Sarah.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to put this link in the chat and invite you to go to our website. I promise this is really, really fast. So that link is in the chat to take you to groundworkohio.org. When you land on our homepage, you would just click on this Get Involved button. And that takes you to a number of ways to get involved. And whatever the current action alert is, will always be on this page. So this is how we're doing it without being prompted by an email. Being prompted by an email makes it even easier for you. But right now, to do one all together in real time, you would just click on this Save Childcare Now button. And it takes you to this landing page that we just talked about what is the urgency of prioritizing childcare in spending bills. And we're scrolling down to the contact information. Mine is already pre-populated here because I've done this before, but I'm going to pause and ask each of you to fill in first name, last name, street address, your email address, and your phone number. Is anybody doing this with me? Anybody at all? Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, and then you keep scrolling down, and here's the personalized subject line and message. I'm going to pause for another moment in case you would like to modify any of this messaging. And it's going to customize these fields about who the message is addressed to, and the sincerely from your name. This will be customized. You can take as much time as you like to do these customizations, or like I said, you can just let it go as is. We've put some thought into this language. It's just the most direct ask, the most direct factual information about the need to save childcare and prioritize this in spending bills. So there's no harm in also just hitting next. Oh, it wants my Ms. And if you hit next, you should see a thanks for your support message to confirm that your message went through.
And Sarah, for folks who regularly get our newsletter and click on action alerts, and sometimes we'll bump something if it's got a longer, sometimes federal spending bills take a long time. If anybody accidentally submits it twice, is there any damage done?
Not at all. Not at all. I think I've done this one 4 times because I did it again just now. No harm.
Thanks, Sarah. Does anybody else have questions about these? Awesome. Well, I think from a political standpoint, thank you, Sarah, for walking it through. It's always helpful to see somebody do it in real time with screenshots, I think. We know that the state legislature is in lame duck session right now. Congress is about to change. So we will probably be sending something out here by the end of the year. We're just kind of waiting with bated breath to see where that action is. So please do keep an eye on our e-blasts for that content. That is all the engagement kind of information that we wanted to share today. If anyone has questions about any of that, feel free to share. Or if anyone has questions, as we've kind of started unveiling this driving change report with our public policy agenda, our team's around now and can answer questions about that too. Anything you wanted to add, Lynn? I know we've had a lot of announcements this week about policy and engagement.
I don't think so. I put in the chat, once you do send the email, or sometimes we'll prompt you via text and have experimented with asking you to make a phone call if you're comfortable. You should get a response back from your policymaker, whether it's at the state or federal level. And based on how quickly they do that, you know how well their staff is prepared to respond on that issue. And based on kind of the content of the email, you can gauge whether they've really identified what your issue is. So you can expect that coming back to you. No other announcements. I think we've gotten a lot of great feedback on everyone taking in our policy agenda. So certainly more to come, but glad to get the good feedback that everyone sees themselves and their work in it. And hopefully you're feeling more comfortable about engaging in the new year. And feel free to share our action alerts too when they come out. That's one note I don't think we made yet, but your organization is welcome to include them in your newsletters, put them on your own personal social media. Obviously, the goal of these is to get as many voices together on the same content so that these legislative offices see them. So please feel free to amplify those as well. Wonderful. Well, we really look forward to connecting again next week. I'm super excited. I've got one quick question. The action alert. Here, I think I still have the link up. I'll put it in there one more time. I'll just throw this in the chat. There you go. Oh, and thank you, Sarah, for bumping the legislative search as well. So great. We're really excited to see everyone again next week and invite Liz Powell from G2G Consulting to share an election analysis on both the state and federal level. Question about action ID. Yep. Okay, great. Fast chat responders. Thanks, Lynn and Sarah. Awesome. I'll pause. I don't want to rush off. We're totally available if there are more questions, but I don't want to hold folks either. Okay, wonderful. Well, we look forward to talking about unpacking the election a bit more with everyone next week, and I hope everyone has a wonderful Thursday morning. Thanks, everyone.